I'm not gonna lie. I feel awful. I woke up and it's just ugh. But that's not gonna stop me from talking about today's Pokemon Mega Heatran. And look, I don't know who found a picture of me at Thanksgiving dinner to send a Game Freak for some inspiration for this absolute monstrosity, but well, they certainly succeeded. I mean, this thing's jaw melted the same way how I dislocate my own to inhale more pie, but yeah, I don't know how I feel about the design, to be completely honest. Like, it reminds me of a Forge, but it also reminds me of Jabba the Hutt. And while someone has referred to me as a big hairy ape, I'm sorry, I heard that, so you guys have to hear that. I don't think I'm that far gone compared to Mega Heatran, but will Mega Heatran be good? Yeah, probably. I mean, it wasn't on my bingo card, but I mean, Heatran itself has always been good since it debuted, and honestly, I can't see it being bad as a Mega Pokemon. Now, I mean, the base form Heatran is still really good, and the fact that the base form can hold an item, like, say, the Shuka Berry or a Life Orb or an Air Balloon, the Mega Heatran is going to have a little bit of trouble living up to those expectations, but I think it'll blow past them pretty quickly in 2026 after Pokemon Champions comes out. But without further ado, let's jump into the showdown window. So Heatran has always been a phenomenal Pokemon, and when you look at its abilities, its typing, as well as its stats, it's very easy to see why it has been so good since it debuted. I mean, we got 91 HP, 90 attack, 106 in both of its defenses, 130 special attack, and 77 speed. On top of that, Fire Steel is a phenomenal defensive typing, which makes sense. I mean, both of these types are pretty decent on their own, and then you put them together and you get this. You get an immunity to poison. You get 5 4 times resistances. Not 5 resistances, 5 4 times resistances to bug, steel, fairy, grass, and ice, while having 4 regular resistances to dragon, flying, normal, and psychic. You have only 2 weaknesses to fighting and water, and then 1 4 times ground weakness. So, like, if we add up all the typings here, like, out of the 18 types, we've got 3 weaknesses total, plus the 4 regular resistances. There's 7. You get the 5 4 times resistances right there. There's 12. You get the poison immunity. That's 13 out of 18 typings represented right there. And while this thing is neutral to fire, it gets Flash Fire as an ability, so, fire immunity right there. So not many things can hit this thing for super effective damage, nor neutral damage for that matter. And Heatran, it's just the gift that keeps on giving, because Flash Fire not only gives Heatran a fire type immunity, if Heatran takes a fire type attack, which is very easy when you think about how common Heat Wave is, Heatran's fire type attacks are going to do 50% more damage if it gets hit with that fire type attack. So, like, you're sitting in a very pretty position with just base form Heatran. And then when you think about it, like, item options, as I mentioned, you can hold the Life Orb. You can have a Shuka Berry to help deal with your ground type weakness. You can have a Air Balloon as well, so that you have a temporary ground type immunity. Like, the mega form of Heatran is going to have a lot of pressure to do well. And I still think it can do well, but I mean, base form Heatran is going to be wild, especially when you factor in that Scarlet and Violet is still going on for VGC. Like, you have the Terra option, and it might be because I'm a little bit biased because I used Heatran more in Sword and Shield with the Dynamax era. I mean, Heat Wave, Flash Cannon, Earth Power, they're all great moves when you pair them together for a Dynamax format, because Max Steel Strike, you get a defense boost. Max Quake, you get a special defense boost. Max Flare, you set the sun. Your fire type attacks are going to do even more damage. So, like, you get a special defense boost with the Quake. You get the defense boost with the Steel Spike. You finish it off with a Flare. Now you just set the sun for 5 turns. If your opponent doesn't have a means of resetting the weather, Heatran can then just revert back to regular form and then just start throwing out these spread heat waves for some massive damage. But on top of that, like, Heatran gets a lot of other great moves. All that to say, let's talk about what the Mega now has as far as its stats go. So, let's address this right now too. Apparently Earth Eater might be the ability. That might be broken right out of the gate. Just get rid of the 4 times ground weakness, and part of me wants to see that, part of me doesn't. Just take it with a grain of salt because we don't know the abilities right now. So it might be Earth Eater, it might not. I don't realistically see them giving Earth Eater to Mega Heatran because we just talked about its typing and how many types are just not doing a lot to it. Like, I feel like that might be a little bit broken. Just take it with a grain of salt. Just not a salt cure because this thing is a steel type, and Garganacl. Yeah, Garganacl will do a lot of damage to steel types with salt cure over time. But anyways, Mega Heatran, as far as its stats go, we still have 91 HP, obviously, because that's how Megas work. But the attack jumps up to 120. The defense stat stays the same at 106. Special attack jumps up to 175. Special defense jumps up to 141. And speed drops to 67. So, Mega Heatran, it gets a little bit slower, which makes sense. Like, when you look at that thing, like, it kind of reminds me of a Cargo a little bit with how it's melting and, Jabba the Hutt. But I digress. This thing, it gets bigger, it gets bulkier, quite literally, and it's got to drag itself. So, yeah. Mega Heatran is an interesting Pokemon. I'm not gonna lie. I think as far as the stats on this thing goes, like, I think it's got a lot of potential, especially whereas it got that really nice special defense boost. And I don't really love the speed drop, but I think it is workable. Like, you can still play around with this thing in Trick Room. You can maybe even make a case for it still in Tailwind, depending on how you want to run your Mega Heatran for sure, or, even just base form Heatran. Is like, that's the beautiful thing about 77 speed on the base form. Like, you can play this thing in either Tailwind or Trick Room, or even just run a Scarf on it. It's very flexible with that 77. Like, just with this sample spread here with the 60 EVs, it hits 105. In Tailwind, that's 210, which not too shabby. Like, if you adjust the EVs just a little bit, like, you can jump up to 107, which allows you to outspeed Dragapult with a Tailwind boost. But alternatively, if you decide you want to have, like, next to no speed at all, maybe just put in the 4 right there, and just invest into your special defense, like, you're getting somewhere. Especially, too, whereas I did just mention, like, back in the Dynamax format, this thing was really easy to boost up its own stats because of the Max Quake and Max Steel Spike, but I think it's kind of a fun thing when you look at Heatran to begin with. Like, it's part of the natural charm of the base form. And now the Mega, it does get a little bit slower, but I mean, it's not too shabby. Like, if we recreate what I just put into the base form here with the 4 speed EVs and then raising up the special defense, like, this thing is, it's going to get bulky very, very quickly. So, like, 60 EVs into special defense, I just realized I had that a little bit off. But anyways, point is, 60 EVs in special defense is going to bring you up to 169. Like, this thing is going to be taking attacks moderately well. And the interesting thing here is the fact that its attack stat jumps up to 120. Now, I'm not saying run a fully physical invested Heatran, but this does leave the door open for some options as far as some moves go. Like, I think this can be pretty interesting, seeing 31 EV or IVs on a neutral nature. Let's just change this to a quiet right now, instead of modest. You have 140 physical attack. Heatran might have a few physical options that might be nice to keep in your back pocket just to throw some opponents off guard. So I think it's certainly worth looking into, maybe even having like the odd physical move on a Mega Heatran. On base form Heatran, not as much because, it's only that 90 attack, but I mean, on the Mega, with the attack jumping up to 120, Heatran does have a few physical moves that might be worth exploring. Maybe you have like your Heat Wave, your Flash Cannon, or maybe Magma Storm, Flash Cannon, or Earth Power. Maybe you have one of those two of those three moves right there, and then you decide, you know what, maybe I might just throw in something into the third slot and then have Protect in the fourth, or maybe even just have three special moves and be like, you know what, I'm just going to slide in like a fourth damaging move and see what happens. Like maybe something like that. So before we dive too far into that, though, let's have a quick word about today's partner. Take it away, me. Look, I am a simple man, and I know I'm using that word generously, but I'm a simple man. When I get up to start the day, I like to do two different things. The first, I brew myself a cup of coffee. The second, I hop into the shower with Cheeky soap. I love the way how the soap feels on my skin. It lathers up quite nicely, and honestly, I can't think of a better way to start my day. So if that sounds enticing to you, great news. Use my code SHUCKO to snag yourself an order of Cheeky soap for 10% off. Now, this here is the plain Jest soap. It doesn't really have a scent to it, so if you're looking for that subtle clean and you don't want to have to worry about violating any scent policies, this is the soap for you. But if not, well, head over to usecheeky.com/shucko to check out the rest of Cheeky's selection, whether it be scents such as, and hold on one second here, we got my box of delight here. Whether it be scents like Pulp Francis, which is a nice citrusy scent, or Absolute Cinnamon. Gee, I wonder what that one smells like. Cheeky has plenty of selection to meet your scent needs. And regardless whether you pick a soap with a scent or even just Cheeky's plain soap, it will cut through that grimer odor that's been building up like nobody's business and hiding away that evidence, so you don't even have to worry about people finding out about you assaulting humanity with your natural stench. You're welcome. Use cheeky.com/shucko to snag yourself 10% off on your orders of soap. What are you waiting for? Head on over right now. Pause button. Or better yet, just open a separate tab and listen to me ramble as we keep going on. Anyways, thank you to Cheeky for partnering with me for today's video. And now let's dive right back in to the discussion. All right, we're back. And now, as I said before we moved into that segue there, let's talk about some of the physical moves that Heatran has in its kit. Because that shiny 120 base attack is not bad for Heatran. Because when you think about it, the base form has already kind of set a precedent with that base 130 special attack, and the Mega kind of maintains that with the 175 special attack. Your opponents are going to see Heatran hit the field, and they're going to be like, oh, I'm going to throw up a light screen. I'm going to reduce the amount of damage this thing does. And then Heatran goes, oh, my friend, I have a trick to show you. Like that creepy guy be like, hey, you want to see a magic trick? And then it's just something completely stupid to try to get someone's phone number. But wow, that was unhinged. But anyways, Heatran will be like, let me show you what I can do. Now, I went through its physical move pool, and I found a few moves that kind of stood out to me because they have some interesting tech options that I think could certainly catch a few people off guard. And it probably wouldn't be too shabby to see maybe Heatran kind of incorporate some of these moves into its kit here. And the first one on the list is First Impression. This is a base 90 powered bug type attack. It has a +2 priority bracket, which that should already stand out to you because it's faster than your typical priority move. Like when you look at your typical Sucker Punch, your Grassy Glide, your Aqua Jet, they're all a priority 1. First Impression is a priority 2, which means this thing actually speed dies extreme speed, which is that's kind of mind-boggling. But this thing is in the same speed bracket as extreme speed, which means Heatran can come in here, see something fast on the field, and just kind of revenge kill it right away. Like say your opponent might have Mega Greninja on the field. That thing's a base 142 speed mon. Heatran just says, nah, bro, I win this. It goes for the first impression and one-shots that thing because it's so frail. Or, even Mega Absol Z, which we just talked about, it's frail. It's a neutral hit coming off of a base 120 attack stat, and plus it's base 90 power. Mega Absol Z is probably not going to appreciate that either, which I think is kind of funny for Heatran. And, Legend ZA made first impression into a TM. I don't think it's a TM in other games. So some other Pokemon are probably going to get it that it might come up and just kind of throw some people for a loop, which I think is pretty notable at the end of the day. And then we have some Steel-type stab in Steel Roller. Now this is nice because not only is it stab, it's base 130 power, it's also excellent terrain control. So if your opponent has the terrain up on the field, you can just clear it out with Steel Roller and do some massive damage. Now, the one drawback is, unlike Ice Spinner, you need terrain to actively be on the field to use Steel Roller. Ice Spinner will just do the damage regardless, but Steel Roller requires there to be active terrain. But I mean, at the end of the day, Steel Roller is also significantly higher powered. Like, if you're using a Pokemon with Ice Spinner, I think Ice Spinner's base power is only 80. Steel Roller is 130. So, like, Heatran, it does rely on your opponent having some terrain up, or even you setting up your own terrain and then just immediately clearing it. But I mean, that can derail a couple of strategies. Like if your opponent has some Pokemon on the field that are going to enjoy having psychic terrain protect them from priority, like Heatran can come in, Steel Roller, clear that psychic terrain, and now you have access to priority moves such as Sucker Punch, Extreme Speed, Grassy Glide. Which would be really funny then if you brought in your own Rillaboom after destroying Psychic Terrain, set up the Grassy Terrain, go for a Grassy Glide, weaken something, and then be like, nah, I don't need this either, and Steel Roller again. Like, that could be funny. So you do have that working in your favor, which I think could be relatively nice. We have Stone Edge here, but Stone Edge should have an asterisk next to it because as far as rock-type coverage goes, like, not a lot of Pokemon love having rock-type damage thrown into them, especially when you factor in the combination of fire and steel. Like, when you have rock added into that mix, not a lot of Pokemon love that. And we'll just pop into PokemonDB.net for a quick second. I have Steel, Ground, and Fire because we had Heat Wave, Earth Power, and Flash Cannon on here. 15 Pokemon resist that. That's 15 Pokemon total. You had Rock. Nothing resists that, which is nice. Now, it does mean you're dropping Protect, obviously, but I mean, that could be a fun little combination. And, just to kind of prove a point, maybe you don't want to necessarily have no means of protecting yourself. Maybe say we take Earth Power out, throw in Stone Edge. Very comparable. Now it's some fighting type Pokemon that are kind of resisting that, fighting and ground, that have like a dual typing with the water type, but at the end of the day, that's not a lot of Pokemon that dislike that, which I think is pretty notable. And the reason why I point out Stone Edge and even just say, you know what, just have an asterisk there, it's because Heatran doesn't really have the greatest special rock coverage. Like, if we take Stone Edge out, well, actually, before we take Stone Edge out, let's just point out the fact that it's 100 power, and Rock Slide is another great physical option because, it's a spread move. It has some pretty decent flinch odds. If you get Trick Room up for the Mega Heatran, well, now you're having some fun with some decent flinch odds. You can have Rock Slide there. Not a lot of Pokemon love taking that Rock-type damage. And then, alternatively, Stone Edge, it's switching from a spread move to a single target, which they're not loving that either. If you just look at your Rock coverage in general here, as far as Heatran goes for special, you got Power Gem, which is base 80. You got Ancient Power at 60. That's kind of it. The rest is physical. Now, you're probably doing a little bit more damage with Power Gem coming off the 175 special attack than you are Rock Slide. But I mean, you're getting the utility of a spread move and Rock Slide, and then with the higher base power in Stone Edge and the boosted crit ratio, you might be doing a little bit more, give or take. And, if your opponent's not expecting a physical move to come out of Heatran, and you hit something that's a little bit weaker on the physical side with Stone Edge, like you probably might end up doing a little bit more damage. You would definitely have to research and look into your damage calcs for that. I didn't, so by all means, let me know in the comments below. I'm definitely curious to see how this works out. But the point is, if you can catch your opponents off guard with a physical rock type move, like that might not be bad at the end of the day. So you can certainly have that option between Stone Edge and Rock Slide versus, say, Ancient Power or Power Gem. Like, Power Gem has no additional effect, so like it's a move that's not benefiting from stab to begin with. So like it's probably not doing the most damage at base 80 power. And I mean, even in the defense of like the base form having access to Terra, nothing wants to go Terra Rock. Nothing wants to open themselves up to that, even if you are gaining stab on the power gem. So like I think you might be able to make a case for Stone Edge. You are playing a little bit of an accuracy roulette game with the 80 accuracy, but I mean, you land that single target Stone Edge, you land that slightly boosted crit odds, and you know, you might be sitting pretty. That might be fun. So that's kind of what I was thinking about some rock coverage for Heatran. And then I had Crunch. Now, Crunch is here solely because of bulky Pokemon, specifically bulky Ghost Pokemon, bulky Psychic Pokemon, bulky Ghost and Psychic Pokemon, Lunala. They don't love taking 4 times super effective damage. And like, so if you get Mega Heatran into a situation where, say, Lunala's on the field, you're taking neutral ghost type damage from the Moongeist Beam. If they have a psychic move, you're taking neutral damage, you're taking resisted damage from that. If they have Moonblast, you're taking 4 times resisted damage from that. And typically when you see Lunala, like you usually see like Wide Guard and Trick Room on that thing, Moongeist Beam, and then usually Moonblast. So like you hit that thing with a Crunch, you break its Shadow Shield, like you might be able to do some massive damage. And you know, the other thing too is it's not bulky, but I mean Shadow Rider doesn't love that. And you know, Ice Rider might not love it either. Now, I mean, Ice Rider, you could just make the case for the Steel Roller instead, but I think that's just worth noting for the Dark type coverage. And then 2 other moves that I think are worth noting, but I don't really place them too high on the list, are basically the same idea, just different typed moves. And that would be Heat Crash and Heavy Slam. Heatran as a Mega Pokemon clocks in at just under 1,300 pounds. It works out to be 1,256 pounds. Heat Crash and Heavy Slam, they do more damage based off the user's weight. So you're probably doing some pretty decent damage with the Heat Crash and Heavy Slam, so long as you're not going into a heavier target. Like if it's a lighter target, like say Fluttermane, that's my favorite example is Fluttermane for these 2 moves. You're probably going to be in an okay position for like hitting a lighter target. Like you get a Whimsicott on the field, that's just gone. So you could have your Heavy Slam, you can have your Heat Crash. Alternatively, you could just use a super effective special attack, but I mean, it's just kind of worth noting that Heatran does have those at its disposal. So yeah, I think that's a pretty good thing to mention as far as the physical moves go. Now, let's mention some special attacks. Now, as far as special attack options go, Heatran has some really good options, and I'm going to actually completely null and void one of the points I just made, and that's the fact that it gets Dark Pulse. So, like, you do have that. So if you don't feel comfortable running the Crunch on this thing and you just want to take advantage of the fact that you got the much higher special attack stat, you could run Dark Pulse to hit Pokemon like, say, Lunala and Calyrex, and yeah, basically those 2. Also the Necrozma forms, but I mean, you can have the Dark Pulse there. You have Dragon Pulse, which Dragon Pulse would be pretty decent for some neutral coverage into a lot of things. And plus, there's a lot of Dragon-type Pokemon out there. So you do have that Dragon Pulse. Earth Power is big because, you know, you can hit opposing Heatran, which that's probably the most important point on base form Heatran. Now, if we do end up seeing Earth Eater, I mean, that might be a little bit null and void. So, like, you might need another means of hitting that. But, I mean, you do get Earth Power, which is really good. And honestly, it has been a very consistent, reliable set running Heat Wave, Flash Cannon, and Earth Power on Heatran for a very long time. So I don't see it going anywhere from most Heatran builds. Now, Eruption is interesting because if I remember right, Eruption was an event-only move that I think you had to get from Pokemon Ranger. So you don't really see Eruption too much, but I would love to see that come back. I would love to see Heatran get Eruption again. Because I feel like that would be big big spread damage. Now, you'd have to be a little bit more careful about your HP stat because Eruption's power is dependent on your HP, but I mean, I would love to see that return, and I mean, who knows? Maybe I'm completely wrong. Be sure to let me know down in the comments about that as well. Fire Blast is good single target fire type damage if you don't want to necessarily rely on Heat Wave missing potentially both targets or, a wide guard. You could opt for Fire Blast, maybe even play around with some gravity shenanigans. Maybe you could do that. You have Flamethrower for less firepower, but more reliable accuracy. We talked about Flash Cannon earlier. Flash Cannon's pretty decent for stab, and with Mega Heatran, I feel like Flash Cannon is going to be really important because, you'll be hitting Fairy-type Pokemon for super effective damage, but not only that, Garganacl is a very important Pokemon to keep in mind for this because, Salt Cure will be doing a lot of damage to a lot of Steel types over time because basically, if I remember right with my numbers, Salt Cure, it takes away 1/8 of your max HP at the end of the turn. For water and steel type Pokemon in particular, they lose 1/4 each, which basically you'd only have about 4 turns of your Pokemon being on the field, not even counting active damage that's coming their way in between. So being able to hit a Garganacl for super effective damage, hit them with a Flash Cannon, and just try to get them off the field, that would be really, really important, which Heatran would definitely love having either Fake Tears support to hit the target or even just Helping Hand support to boost up its own damage. So Flash Cannon might be very important going forward for dealing with Garganacl or, even just jumping further down the list, Steel Beam. Steel Beam is raw explosive damage, but it will cost you half of your HP, so it's a very reckless gambit if you miss or if your opponent protects. But, I mean, Steel Beam might be worth considering as well. So, as far as going back into the moves go, we kind of already touched on Heat Wave as well with the spread option. We got Lava Plume. Lava Plume is great. You can hit your own side of the field with it, though, if you're not careful, but Lava Plume's got 30% chance to burn the target, which that's huge, especially since Heatran didn't get a boost to its physical defense. It only got a boost to its special defense. So, if you can burn your targets and reduce their physical damage output, that's definitely going to help keep Heatran on the field a lot longer. Magma Storm is Heatran's signature move. It's a move I don't really use a whole lot of, but basically it's a lot harder hitting Fire Spin. So it traps the opponent, so that could be nice. And, alternatively, we just talked about getting Garganacl off of the field, but imagine you trap something on the field with Magma Storm and then you Salt Cure it with Garganacl. The amount of passive damage they'd be taking, that would be tremendous right there. So, I mean, that could be kind of funny. We talked about Power Gem earlier for the Rock-type coverage, which, I mean, it's kind of meh. I don't know. I don't really know how I feel about Power Gem Heatran. But, Overheat right above it, Overheat could be massive because, although you are losing 2 stages in your special attack stat, you're hitting something for some massive damage, especially if the sun is up. And, alternatively, I was talking about just having the odd physical move to kind of complement your Heatran for its special set. But, if you think about it, if you want to run Overheat, you could run a physical move just to kind of make up for the -2 special attack drop. You could maybe do something like that too. Hypothetically, imagine Heatran goes for the Overheat, picks up a KO, your opponent brings in something a little bit more specially defensive, thinking Heatran's not going to be able to do anything to them because of the -2 special attack drop and the high special defense on whatever they brought in. And then Heatran just turns around and goes, Steel Roller. Yeah. I'm not going to let Steel Roller go. I think that's such a great tech option on this thing, to be completely honest. I would love to see it work. I really would love to see it work. As far as the rest of the moves go, you got Scorching Sands, which is a weaker earth power that does have the chance to burn the target. So, I mean, that's not too bad at the end of the day. And then you have Terra Blast, which, I mean, you're probably not going to see that on a Mega Heatran. Let's be completely honest. But, I mean, it's an interesting option as well. So, the thing about Champions is we don't know how it's going to work. If it's only going to be a Mega on Mega format or a Mega and a mixed gimmick format. Maybe they might just do okay, this season we're only doing Megas. This season we're only doing Terra. This season we're only doing Dynamax. and then be like, okay, this season we're doing Mega and Terra. This season we're doing Dynamax and Z moves. Like, we don't quite know how it's going to necessarily go just yet, but I mean, it's kind of worth noting, like, for a Terra option on the base form, I guess it's still there. What Smogon usually deems is usually useless. Not a whole lot. The entire list is on the screen. You got Hyper Beam. You got Hyper Beam for some normal type damage, which I think would be funny on a base form Heatran using a Dynamax set. I don't think it's going to help the Mega Ab by any means. Uproar is an interesting option, though, because while it does lock you into using the same move over for 3 turns, it does protect you from being put to sleep. So, like, that might be kind of an interesting tech option. Like, I think it's a little bit of a, ironically enough, and pardon the pun, but I think it's a bit of a sleeper pick. But, I mean, that might not be the end of the world. You could have Solar Beam, which Solar Beam on a Sun team for Heatran might be okay. Yeah, Mega Heatran with Sun on the field might not be too bad. Like, when you think about it, Sun reduces the power of water type attacks. It removes the 2-turn charge for Solar Beam. So, like, you could weaken the power of water type attacks. So Heatran's getting a little bit more bulkier that way by having one of its weaknesses reduced in power. You have the Solar Beam to hit said water type Pokemon for super effective damage. You can hit ground type Pokemon for super effective damage. Like, it might not be a bad idea. I think the Mega, it's certainly worth exploring that idea on a Sun team. Like, I mean, you still have Torkoal, you still have yeah, you still have Torkoal. I was about to say Mega Charizard, but that doesn't really help you when you're running Mega Heatran. But I mean, with Drought, I mean, you have Torkoal, you have Ninetales. Yeah, I don't feel confident saying you have Ninetales, but I mean, you have it. But I mean, Torkoal next to this thing could be kind of funny because, you know, you get Helping Hand, you get Drought. That could be fun. I don't know. But yeah, anyways, the point is, there's a reason why Smogon usually deems these useless, and I'm kind of in agreement with the majority of them, except for maybe Solar Beam. But yeah, I think Heatran's got plenty of good special options, and it's certainly worth considering. And let's just talk about a few potential teammates, and then we're going to call it there. So let's move into that in just a moment. All right, since I was just talking about Torkoal, let's start off with that, with the potential partner Pokemon that I thought could be kind of fun next to Mega Heatran. So Torkoal naturally sets the sun, and it is super slow. So if you get multiple Pokemon on the field at the same time that can change the weather, you're more than likely going to end up keeping your sun with Torkoal. Now, if you get a Pokemon that can Mega Evolve and change the weather, well, that might be a little bit problematic, but at the same time, if there's no Pokemon that can do that, Torkoal is going to be pretty reliable for keeping that sun up on the field unless your opponent decides that they're going to find a way to manually change the weather. But at the end of the day, what it boils down to for Torkoal is you usually like seeing that slow turtle hit the field, getting it in Trick Room, and then having it go for massive damage itself, with Eruption being powered up not only by the sun from its Drought ability, but also the Charcoal held item. So a lot of people don't really necessarily see the Helping Hand coming off Torkoal, which is a great utility option to power up Heatran, because then Heatran can get a 50% boost to its move's power, and then it can just do some massive damage. And plus, you know, a Torkoal has that sun up, while Heatran's fire type attack of choice, whether it be Overheat, Heat Wave, Magma Storm, Fire Blast, you're going to be melting a lot of stuff, just like Heatran's jaw right there. So you can have that working in your favor, or, you know, you can have Torkoal go for a Yawn, which is nice because, you know, that creates a really sticky situation for your opponent. And now you're kind of playing a little bit of mind games of, will they switch? Will they not switch? Will they stay in and be put to sleep, or will they switch out? And then you also have the mind game of, am I going to protect with both of my mons, or am I going to keep up the pressure? Because here's the thing there. If you have a Yawn and then you go for Protect with both of your Pokemon, your opponent might just switch out and get the safest switch imaginable. But if they switch and you don't Protect and you decide to apply pressure, the Pokemon that's switching in could be potentially opened up to taking some massive damage, especially a Helping Hand boosted attack from Heatran right there. So you could potentially have that going on with Torkoal and Heatran, which I think could be relatively funny. And, you know, the next two Pokemon on the list here are kind of a similar vein here. We got Whimsicott and we got Sableye. Both of these are prankster Pokemon that get access to Sunny Day. They both get access to Helping Hand. They get some speed control working in their favor. And, you know, they can kind of disrupt the opponents for Heatran or manually set the sun for Heatran. Because like I was just saying about Torkoal, if your opponent manually changes the weather, whether it be by switching in, like, say, a Drizzle or Snow Warning Bond, or going for Snowscape or Rain Dance manually, you can always reset the weather with Sunny Day manually yourself. So, like, you could potentially do that. Like, if your opponent just switches in a Drizzlemon and then you go for Sunny Day, well, that switch was really pointless on their end, and now Heatran is going to power up with the Sunny Day, and now its Heat Wave is going to not only hit the Pokemon that just switched in and changed the ability, which it's not going to love that boosted damage, even with the resistance, most likely, because, you know, I'm thinking Pelipper and Ninetales as my examples. Although the Ninetales would just melt, Pelipper, its special defense isn't the highest to begin with, so it might just go down too. Or, you know, lose a significant portion of its HP, and then it might be in a weird situation as well. But yeah, anyways, point is, they wouldn't love that now boosted Heat Wave coming their way, or whatever fire type attack you have on your Heatran. You have that Helping Hand option as well, so like you could just decide that you're not going to manually change the weather. Maybe you already have the weather on the field that you want. You just go for the Helping Hand, boost up your damage. Or you even look into the speed control option right there. Like, Sableye gets access to Quash, which is great because, you know, that forces the target to move last. So maybe if you're worried about a potential Heatran versus Heatran speed tie, or maybe even if it's just base form Heatran against your Mega Heatran, maybe you're worried about taking a super effective hit from that. You just quash them and then you remove them first. Like, maybe you just do that. Or, you know, you turn on Tailwind with Whimsicott, double your speed, which, although Heatran doesn't have the best speed stat, it can still make it work. Like, you can hit some notable numbers right here with that base 67 speed. Like, you're one speed point slower than Mega Scrafty. And we're just going to mention this because I brought this up in the Mega Scrafty video. With one set of EV points into Mega Scrafty, you can speed tie a base 110 Jolly Mon with max speed on a Mega Scrafty. Now, if you get 2 points into Heatran, well, now you're able to do the same thing. So that's not too shabby at the end of the day. Like, you get up to 89 speed on Heatran after 2 points of investment. You're speed tying these base 110 Pokemon, which the big example I have here is Mega Metagross. It's a steel type. It doesn't want to take a fire type attack from Mega Heatran. And if it's not expecting Mega Heatran to outspeed it, like, yeah, sorry, that's an unpleasant surprise, especially with that base 110 special defense versus Heatran's base 175. Like, you can have some fun there. So, like, you can still afford to run a little bit of investment into this thing for speed. Like, you've got a monstrous 175 special attack and monstrous 141 special defense. Like, Heatran can get a little bit of speed investment into it, and then so long as you know your speed tiers, like, you could be in an okay position right there. So, like, it's not bad at the end of the day, to be completely honest. And another thing that Whimsicott gets, which weirdly enough Sableye doesn't, is fake tiers. So maybe you decide you just want to lower the target's special defense 2 stages with Whimsicott. Like, you could do that instead. Like, it throws me off because you would think with Sableye being a dark type, it would get access to fake tiers, but unfortunately it just does not. But alternatively, a nice thing that Sableye has working for it versus Whimsicott is its typing. So Whimsicott's a grass fairy type Pokemon. It can be faked out. Both of these Pokemon are kind of frail, so, like, you're kind of in a weird quasi situation. I don't know why I said quasi, but you're in a weird situation where you have to decide on whether or not you want to run a Covert Cloak or a Focus Sash. The Covert Cloak will keep you safe from fake out, but if you have that Focus Sash there, I mean, in theory, you're giving yourself a little bit of insurance, whereas meanwhile with Sableye, you're a dark ghost type, you're naturally immune to fake out, so you can run that Focus Sash, and you can keep yourself around. with the focus sash, as long as you don't get double targeted. And the nice thing here too is Sableye is also a dark type, so I mean, even if it's a situation with Whimsicott versus Sableye, Whimsicott can't taunt you, it can't encore you, so like you have that. I mean, it can Moonblast you, but at the main point is Whimsicott could always be taunted. It can always be encored by other pranksters, whereas Sableye can't, and Sableye can run the focus sash, and plus, Sableye gets reflect, so like you have that, which is nice. Whimsicott can get light screen, but it can't get reflect. It only gets the one screen, whereas meanwhile Sableye can have both. So hypothetically, you could have a little bit of defensive support with Sableye as well, or you could have Will-O-Wisp on the off chance that Mega Heatran gets Flash Fire as an ability instead of Earth Heater. I mean, you could side target your own Heatran and activate Flash Fire. And then that way too, like, you would get a boost to your fire type attacks that way as well, if it does have Flash Fire. Or, you just use Will-O-Wisp as intended and just be a menace to your opponents and burn them and reduce their physical damage output. Like, Mega Heatran does get a big boost to its special defense, but none to its physical defense. So, I mean, burning your opponents, that's not bad at the end of the day, to be completely honest. Now, next partner here, Cresselia. And this one feels like it's a little bit of cheating because both Heatran and Cresselia were a part of the Chalk archetype back in 2015. Cresselia was literally what the C in Chalk was for, and Heatran was the H. But, it's nice to see because Heatran did get a little bit slower, so you could invert the speed with that Trick Room for Heatran. You have the Helping Hand. You also have Lunar Blessing, which Cresselia didn't have back then. So, like, you can preserve Heatran a little bit more with Lunar Blessing healing it up. And you can also cure some statuses. So, like, I mean, if your Heatran gets paralyzed from a Prankster Thunderwave, I mean, you can have that Lunar Blessing just remove the Thunderwave, and then you don't have to worry about potentially missing your turn. So that could be relatively nice at the end of the day. And then another thing I was thinking of is Baxcalibur. So far, a lot of these supportive Pokemon have been, well, supportive. Baxcalibur would be a pretty decent offensive support since you could have some nice physical damage, and the fact that Baxcalibur has the ability Thermal Exchange. Basically, your attack gets raised one stage when hit with a fire move. And you can't be burned. So that's relatively nice right there. So hypothetically, and I haven't run any calcs, but I think an Assault Vested Baxcalibur with some heavy special defense investment might be kind of funny next to Lava Plume Heatran. So like, you can go for Lava Plume, hit the entire field, potentially burn your opponents, not burn your dragon, raise its attack one stage, and then Baxcalibur can go for some big damage the following turn. Like, you can get a +1 boost into your attack and then have like some nice priority off of Ice Shard. You can have Icicle Crash, which can potentially make your opponent flinch, or you can go for Glaive Rush, which just to absolutely decimate something right there with that stab 120 dragon type attack. Now, I'm just going to say this though, if you are going to run Baxcalibur and Heatran, do not run Glaive Rush and then go for the Lava Plume. Like, if you're going to use Glaive Rush, use it after you set yourself up, because Glaive Rush will make sure that Baxcalibur takes double damage. So, Assault Vest or not, Baxcalibur is not going to want to take a double boosted damage off of Lava Plume. So, yeah, use your Glaive Rush after you get set up, or, make sure you get Baxcalibur out if you're going to Glaive Rush first. That's the only thing I'm saying right there as far as that goes. But I think Mega Heatran has a lot of potential, and I think it's a Pokemon that might be able to throw people for a loop, and it might be able to catch some people off guard. Now, it definitely has a lot of pressure working against it because its base form has been so good, and I mean, people might just opt to run the base form instead and run a different Mega slot, but I think Heatran as a Mega is certainly worth looking into, and I think it can definitely blow past some lower expectations that some people might have. So anyways, let me know what you think of it down in the comments below. Thank you guys so much for listening to my yap session here. I wasn't originally planning for this to be as long as it was because my throat is killing me, but here we are. And also, don't forget, use my code Shucko to snag yourself some cheeky soap for 10% off. I don't think you will have any regrets getting their all moisturizing, refreshing blocks of soap. It will certainly be your new favorite way to shower. So, anyways, catch you later.